Thank you, PJ. It is time for another edition of the Pair and a Spare podcast. It's been a minute or two. We're presented by Jack's Cafe. I'm Justin Gaard from The Fan, live from Toledo, Ohio. The haters said I'd never make it to Toledo. Well, look at me now. Look at me now. I'm on the road. Burnsy's in his spot, his wife's house that he rents a room at, and then there's Chip Scoggins from the Star Tribune. How we doing, fellas?
Wish I was in Toledo.
I know.
It's magical,
man.
It's magical. I tried to give you the ambiance behind me, but the lighting's not very good in the Renaissance downtown Toledo off of some river. I don't even know what river it is. It's too windy, can't walk, can't do anything, but I'm here, and that's the beauty of it. We got a very special guest again today. Thanks to everybody that listened to the Matt Spaeth show a couple of weeks ago. We got a lot of good feedback on that, so we're going to do it again. We're going to bring up our special guest in just a moment, but we do want to plug Chipper. Basically, you've been the director of Jack's Cafe operations the last few weeks, and the event that we're going to do on April 12th. What should people know? What do we want people to know about coming to see us in a couple of weeks?
Yeah, we've teased to this a couple of episodes here, and we're having an event, right? A Pair and a Spare special dinner for all our loyal listeners, and so Bill at Jack's Cafe came up with this idea to have a dinner that would benefit Dinkytown athletes, the collective. And
that's the thing. It actually has a component where you can help. It's not just that you have to hang out with us and get free parking and everything. That
we don't matter.
A lot of it.
We're the last thing you need to worry about.
We're irrelevant. We're irrelevant to this whole thing. But Dinkytown Athletes is the beneficiary of this event, and it's on all of our socials. It's on Dinkytown Athletes socials. It's very easy to find information on it. A lot of the players on the current team have been tweeting about it, which we appreciate. That's very cool. Mm-hmm. And Burnsy's picture is the biggest on the.
Well, I have the biggest head, literally.
I actually don't even know if that's true, but I'm glad that I'm going to say it anyway. That you can meet Ryan Burns, and if you were in Charlotte, you know that's a big deal to a lot of people.
Yeah, so it's April 12th from 6 to 9. Like the boys said, I think all proceeds go to Dinkytown Athletes. Come hang out with us on a Saturday night. Come eat Jack's Cafe. We've been talking about it for years, and the best part is all the proceeds go to Dinkytown Athletes to help Minnesota keep their best players.
All right. Should we bring the guest in?
Is he important?
I'm trying to figure out how to introduce the guest. I'll do it this way. During the basketball season, which is ongoing, that's why I'm in Toledo, head coach Don Plitzowite told me, hey, I caught your Sunday show, the Gopher Sunday show. I was listening to it. She wanted to see what I was talking about. She goes, you really think the quarterback's good, don't you? You really love the quarterback. You think you really like the quarterback. I said, Don, if you had him on your team, you would really like the quarterback too. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Max Brosmer, our guest today on the Pair and a Spare podcast. Taking a break from exhaustive draft preparations. We're like 24 hours from pro day. He's been at the combine. How are you, Max?
Doing elite, brother. How are you?
Doing elite. You still got it. Good. So that never leaves. That never leaves.
Yeah.
Never leaves. Well, thanks for doing this, man. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
These guys, I want to let these guys kind of bury you with questions, but I'll just ask, what have you been up to since we last left? The last time I saw you, I think you were dodging mayonnaise at the Duke's Mayo Bowl from your head coach after that bowl victory over Virginia Tech. Catch us up to speed from that night, I think Friday, January 3rd, to what you've been up to here the last couple of months.
Yeah, so I drove home the very next day. I took one off day, and then I got into training, and that's pretty consistent for most of the guys getting the draft prep. It's like you got a couple days to recover from the game, which is a little less than usual actually, and then you got to start training right away. And I mean it's January, February. I mean we're end of March right now. It's 2.5 months of just like go, and it's nothing different from the go mindset when you're training here in the off season. But like I've said before, to some other people, it's like the first time in your life that you're training for yourself only, and you don't have a team to go back to. And that was the weirdest feeling for me during this draft prep. Was usually you have, a team to get back to, and you're building yourself to become a better player for your team. And ultimately, you are doing that, but it's a lot different because you have no idea where you're going. And so that was a hard adjustment for me, but I really enjoyed the process, and I still have, a month left of training and making sure that I'm ready for my team when they call me up at some point. And so I'm excited for that to come, but just taking it one day at a time.
Hey Max, I've talked to a number of NFL rookies at their first mini camp after they get drafted and they have that thing, and they talk about just how exhausting this period is, because you're training like crazy for the combine or your pro day. You have all these visits, top 30 visits. You're meeting with you're flying all over the country. What's that experience like? I mean, I know you probably haven't done the combine and the pro day, but and the visits will probably come up. But
Yeah.
is it a whirlwind? Kind of what's that process like?
I was just talking to a coach yesterday, and this specific coach played in the NFL. He played quarterback in the NFL, and he said, and which is consistent for most people, what I'm hearing anyway, is the first year of the NFL is like the longest football year of your entire life, because you start from January and you go all the way basically a full year without a break. And that's going to be a little bit different. He said, he had talked about he was called to start for the last 6 games of the season, and it was like the most tired he's ever been in his entire life trying to play quarterback. And that's because of the fact that you start in January, and as a rookie anyway. And the other piece that comes with that is, the physical and mental demand. Like the physical demand in the NFL is a lot different than in college. Like you have 17 or 18 games now, as opposed to, you have 12 or 13. And that's a big difference because your body's just taking a beating. And so I'm excited for that challenge. I'm excited for, bonding with a new team and providing value as best I can. And I'm looking forward to see, where I end up.
Before I ask you any more Josh McCown questions, because I'll make an inference of who you were talking to, knowing it, who was at
Actually,
Pro
it
Day
wasn't Josh McCown, but it was close.
Okay.
Let's try. We're happy you were at Pro Day too, Mr. Scoops. You're so plugged in.
Oh, so blessed.
You're so plugged in. But go ahead. Good start. That's a 15-yard penalty right out of the gate.
Like, I almost want to think, like, overarching view, Max, when you go back to when Harbaugh, offensive coordinator Greg Harbaugh, flew out to New Hampshire, you guys were meeting, and now here you are 15, 12 months later. Is it everything you thought it was going to be when PJ and Harbaugh were selling you on it, now that you have an opportunity to kind of look back at the whirlwind year that was your time at the University of Minnesota?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some hesitation or even some reservations when you're moving to a new school and you have one more year left, and you're kind of getting sold on this idea that you're going to come in and really great things. And as a transfer guy, there's a lot of that you can't control. And as I talked to Coach Fleck yesterday, and I was saying you have to get lucky a little bit with the where you end up, and on their end too. And he described it as fate instead of luck, and I like that because I think that everything happens for a reason. And for some reason, I ended up at Minnesota, and we did some really cool things this year. And what they told me right away was exactly what they did. I mean, every single thing, the littlest details. They said that we were going to do together, and they were going to do for me, and what they expected from me was exactly the standard and expectation that was provided. And so I think that's really cool. I think that's very different from today's college world, because this program isn't built on money. It's built on a life program, and it's hard to sell and skew a life program when you're recruiting kids. Because it is what it is. Exactly what he says is exactly what you're going to get, and that's just kind of goes. It's a little unheard of in today's college world. So I'm very very grateful for my team here, but also my staff.
Max, along those lines, after you guys won at Wisconsin, had a nice exchange with PJ there, because I said, Max changed you. Like, did he change you? And it was, because I think these guys will test. I've kind of been the flag bearer for this offense needed to be modernized and really hit PG over the head the last couple of years with how dependent they were on the run. But when you were, I mean, because you had one shot at this, right? And you had one shot to pick a school that's going to assume you had NFL aspirations. You picked a school that threw the ball fewer than any major college program in the country last couple of years. That was a leap of faith to know that PJ was going to really modernize his offense around you. What gave you that belief that, hey, I'm going into a system where they're really going to let me throw the ball?
Yeah, that's part of the trust thing. You don't actually know if that's the case. Like in the portal, there's no guarantee that it's going to happen. And hearing Coach Harbaugh's vision for the offense was what kind of, pulled me here, offensively speaking anyway. I loved, when we talked ball together, it was like really easy. We meshed together really well. We spoke the same language, but I also had a lot to learn from him too. And I could tell how smart he was, and how he thought about ball. It was really, really cool to kind of hear right from the start. And so you have to you kind of take that leap of faith, and whether you call it fate or luck, it's meant to happen the way it's meant to happen. And if we threw it 15 times a game and we won 10 games, I would be just as happy. And I think part of that also comes with, knowing your personnel and your team, and we have the guys to do it here. And it also takes trust on the coach's end too. Like, you have to, Coach Harbaugh and Coach Fleck have to trust that we're going to execute the play to the best of our ability. And if they think running inside zone is better than throwing a quick game, speed out to the field, and so be it. But we have the opportunity to show that we can do it consistently and be efficient on it. And that's the piece that you have to kind of go in and execute and prove that you can do it before you can expect a return. And that's for any offense in the entire country. There's no one's just going to drop back and expect things to happen. If the quarterback, the receivers, the running backs, the tight ends, and even the offensive line want to execute the pass play. So I think it was just a consistency thing and a proof that we could do it.
I thought it was cool. Yeah, you introduced all the guys you were throwing to yesterday, some of the smaller school guys. I know you were asked about that. You talked about them getting an opportunity to do it here. As Burnsy kind of alluded to a year ago, you might have thought you would be one of those guys that would have been had to introduced by somebody else. So I guess my question, Max, is how do you feel like you fell through the cracks, or how do you feel like guys fall through the cracks, or do you even feel that? Is it fate that you were supposed to be in New Hampshire, then you're supposed to come here? Because there's obviously guys that can play at every single level. I mean, you're an NFL quarterback, playing FCS as of 18 months ago, which doesn't mean anything other than it's just not the level that you would anticipate.
Yeah.
Then you're here in Minnesota. So how do you kind of feel about that whole thing of there's obviously good players everywhere, and you were one of them? Yeah.
I think it goes back to, I truly believe I went to New Hampshire for a reason. I also believe that, again, going back to the fate or the luck thing, I got placed and I was surrounded around some of the best coaches in the entire country, in my opinion. New Hampshire's coaching staff was absolutely incredible, and I wouldn't be anywhere where I'm at today if I didn't have that staff and that team. I felt like I got developed in a way that truly turned me into a cerebral thinker. I think I had the keys to that a little bit, but molding that and refining that was something New Hampshire did for me. And for some reason, we had a great few years there, and for some reason I ended up here, and I don't know why. And I guess I'll find out hopefully in a month why I came here. But ultimately the goal wasn't, it's, again, I talked about people asking you why, what's your why? And it's not like to go play in the NFL. It's to be the best person and the best quarterback I could be. And I felt like I could do that here. I felt like I had the resources here to do that. The people I was surrounded with were very similar to New Hampshire, and I felt like I could continue to learn and grow here and prosper with a new team and a new staff.
Before you guys go, I didn't wake up thinking about destiny and fate, given that I'm in Toledo, Ohio right now. I'm still kind of struggling with how my fate brought me here. But I'm going to look for that lesson now that Max has talked about that. I'm going to try to figure out why I'm here today on this in this great day in Toledo, what the grand significance is. That's going to be my chore the rest of the episode. But go ahead.
Oh, God. Max, I'd be curious for your opinion on this. One of the things that I think the three of us get asked about a lot is PJ. And I think when people see PJ, they think about his personality, his energy. I like to describe him as he's 5 Red Bulls all the time. And I know that it's very off-putting for people, but I think the thing I say also with that is it's real. Now, you're an outside perspective. You've been around a lot of coaches. You got to see PJ be in his office quite a bit, spend a lot of time with PJ Fleck. If you had to describe PJ to somebody, what would you say?
I love the 5 Red Bulls thing. That's great. That you hit it right in the head. But the best part is he's 5 Red Bulls about everything. And so it's not just football. It's like he's 5 Red Bulls about you becoming the best person you can be, about positively and constructively criticizing you to become the best player you can be and the best man you can be. And I wouldn't want that any other way. I wouldn't want someone just kind of sit back and you can do a little better there. Like, he's all in all the time. And I love to be coached, and whether that's on the field or becoming a better leader or just being a better man, like I said, like I would rather someone give me their all as opposed to just kind of half-assed. And that's what Coach Fleck does. And he's very, very unique, and he always says he's not for everybody. And that's the truth. If you can't handle it, and it's hard to see through it sometimes. Like it really is for young guys, especially who they're coming from high school, and they're the dudes at their high school, and they're always in the newspaper articles in the school newspaper, and they feel like the kings. They come here and you kind of get broken down a little bit, and that's for a reason. That's the life program, and his definition, his program that he runs here is exactly who he is, and he's building people up in a way that he sees fit. And whether that's right or wrong, I think it's extremely unique and in a positive way. And I'm so grateful that I got to be a part of it for a year. I think it's the most unique program in the entire country.
Max, I asked you this question some point during this year because we heard so much about your processing, and like that's such a great strength of you and being able to process things, what you see quickly on the field. How do quarterbacks develop that? Is that just something you either have or you don't, or is that something you can? Is it film study? Is it because we've seen a lot of talented quarterbacks fail because it's probably because they don't process it as quickly as they should. But how did you develop that, and how do you get better at that?
I think sometimes I think at the base layer, has to be a little bit of an innate ability to think really quickly. That's also trained. And so I think of like the brain as a muscle. And so I talk about chess all the time. And I think that for chess, you're getting reps. You're just keeping your brain fresh. For me, football wise, it's about honing that in and then refining it on the football field. And so like, I remember talking to one of my coaches yesterday from New Hampshire about it, and Coach Santos was my freshman quarterback coach who won the Walter Payton at New Hampshire. He ended up becoming the head coach at New Hampshire as well. But my freshman year, he was my quarterback coach, and he put so much on my plate where I had no option to have to think extremely quick and be extremely decisive, and that trained me. And I look back at that year as one of the most defining moments for my processing, is if you say. To where I am today. I think what he asked a freshman quarterback to do is very similar to what they're asking these quarterbacks to do here at Minnesota, actually, which I love. And I think if you put as much on the plate of a quarterback as you can when they're young, it challenges them on a daily basis, and they look back at those years and they are extremely thankful for the people who did it for them. And when I said reps, like chess, reps also in the film room, reps on the field. And there's no success in the field. There's no, better processing down the field without the reps. And I've been playing college football since I was starting as a freshman, and I've had a lot of reps. And so I get here and I get to Minnesota, and at the end of the day, it's just football, right? I think the football piece is consistent from the FCS to the Big Ten as well. It's just football. And so that's what I love doing. You have to have a passion for it. If you don't have a passion for it either, it's hard to like get the reps in sometimes. Like you don't want to get the reps. So people who love ball and are willing to put the reps in are I think where you see the high end processors too.
What was your weekly process to get ready for a game? Like take us through like a Sunday to Saturday, putting the last game to bed and then preparing for the next team. Go as long as you want. You want to go every 15 minutes? Because I feel like a Kirk Cousins that way. that you've got blocks of time that are specific to things you want to do. But give us a sense of how you get ready.
I have probably had it blocked off from, every between 30 minutes to an hour every single day. That's very tiring. So Sunday was a rinse of the Saturday game. Whether it was a win or a loss, it's the same mindset. It's continuing to find ways to get better. And so you look at the positives and negatives of what the game kind of dealt you, and then you go back to the drawing board and reassess. And so if you spend too much time on it, you're not going to be ready for the opponent for the next week. And so we rinse it about midday. And then I start watching full games on Sunday. So I like to get a feel for, the next week's opponent, how the defensive coordinator calls plays, the flow of the defense, the best players on the field, who's running to go get the ball 30 yards down the field, who are the guys that you need to watch out for and game plan for. I start building up personnels, on when they bring in their different personnels on third down, or if they're switching fronts, whatever. I try to find as much as I can, because on Monday I present it all to the receivers, the tight ends, and the running backs. And so I'll hold a meeting, a coverage report meeting, and a personnel meeting on Monday with the guys, and do my best to present the offensive skill with what we're facing this week. And I think it's important to do that on Monday, because that way our first practice on Tuesday, you're on the same page and you're aligned throughout the rest of the week. It's not kind of like a filtering game the whole week. You have it all on Monday, and then we kind of refine it throughout the week. And so Monday, you get the first and second down. You start to break it up into segments. So Monday, you get the first, second down, P and 10. You have second short, second medium, second long. What are their tendencies? And you get Tuesday, you practice first, second down, and then you get the third down, third and short, third and medium, third and long, third down in the red zone. I think there's a lot that changes for defenses when you get on the red zone and third down as well. Understanding again the personnel on third down. Then we practice third down on Wednesday. Then we get in the red zone. So high red, low red, goal line. And then we have a big walkthrough on Thursday. It's called Technique Thursday. And so we practice everything we have up to the point, and constant communication with super up tempo for a walk tempo for us. Like if you go into one of those Thursday practices, there's no silence at all. It's like everyone's talking the entire time, which is great. And then Friday's Fast Friday. And so we're going full speed before the game. And there's a lot of science behind that, which I actually enjoy. I didn't do that in New Hampshire. We walked the day before the game. I enjoyed doing full speed on Friday. And that's kind of a little glimpse into it. There's a lot more layers and a lot more. Yeah, I feel like I could talk for an hour on it.
Yeah, well, I would. Yeah, you could. And that's
and
like
I got that question a lot at the combine. Like, talk me through your week process, and I'm like, I don't know if you want me to actually talk.
In 12 minutes, give us 12 minutes of it.
Yeah. So,
well, most people compare me to scouting guys or personnel guys, so that's why I would ask a question. You would get at the combine. So when do you put it to bed? Like, when do you put, like, Friday night? Are you still watching film? Are you going over the script? Like, what's Friday night like? You're getting ready?
Friday. If it's an away game, I spend the trip on, the bus or the plane. I draw up every single play that we have. I drop every single play in my notes against the top coverages that we're probably going to get. And that's part of the reps for processing too, Chip, is if you have a preparation, if you have a plan and you're prepared for it, you can see it a lot faster too. And that's kind of what I pride myself on. One of the best things I do is prepare. And you can probably that probably factors in a lot of the processing too. I'm not guessing in the field a lot of the time. I usually know what I'm getting, where the ball's going, and so having that ability to manipulate defenders as well is really important. And so Friday, if it's a home game, same thing. I'm just in the office drawing the plays up, and when I get to Saturday, I don't like when I get to end of Friday. I don't like to watch film towards the end of Friday, and that's because I feel like at that point, if you're still guessing, you probably aren't in a good spot. I've had that a few times in my career where I'm like, shoot, I gotta go over these looks again, and that's okay. But trying to find new things is not always my favorite to do. And so Saturday is just the game. I'm not usually Coach Harbaugh will come down and be like, hey, here's our 2-minute package on Saturday morning, because he'll finish it up on game day. And that's fine, because that's, usually they're pretty base plays. And so once you get to Saturday morning, it's like it's game time.
Max, it's interesting to hear you say about how you kind of have that meeting on Monday and you're telling your offensive guys like what you saw on film. And it kind of reminded me that, you're coming in from the outside as a grad transfer, and you have to win over a team like that, right? You got to be a leader like almost day one. And I'm guessing not a lot of guys can do that. I mean, you're talking about guys that have been here for 4 years, that how do you, kind of, what was your mindset or what was your approach in terms of coming in? It's like, obviously you're the quarterback, you're the leader, everybody's going to look at you, but it doesn't mean they're always going to follow you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how did you win over your team in such a short matter of time?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is you have to show that you're going to be the hardest worker you can in the facility, and you have to show your passion for football pretty quickly. I mean, it gets pretty weeded out if you don't love football here. You just kind of become an outcaster a little bit, and that's not a goal for anyone. But if you truly love it, you have to show it, and that was my goal early, was to show the guys how much I want to play for this team and how much I care for them. And they took me in so quickly. I'm not even sure. I could have been like a serial killer, and they wouldn't have. They would have never known. And I'm so surprised. Like I'm very grateful, and I got voted captain within like 3 months here, and that was such a cool moment for me because it kind of, reaffirmed to me that everything I was doing was working and it was right, and not working to win the guys over, but working in the fact that you see the fruits of your labor a little bit, how much work you're putting in, and it's kind of going in the right direction with your guys. And so, I did things. I think my big thing was provide perspective coming from New Hampshire, and hearing people and listening and understanding, having an angle of gratitude and empathy. I'm a big gratitude guy, and one of the first things Coach Fleck told me was they believe, one of the things they believe is that gratefulness is the glue to the locker room. And I'm like, this dude is the guy I want to play for. And you can see that it's tangible in the locker room. And I kind of never looked back. For me, it was, building the glue in the locker room. It was, I took my guys down to Georgia for a week. We had that conversation before with some of you guys. And finding different ways to create unity and glue within the team was really important. And that was kind of my angle, I think. And that was more of a way that I just wanted to win football games. And I'm like, okay, how can I win football games? And you backtrack and you find different ways to create glue. And that was one of the ways.
You were part of, you were the first year for headset communication between the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, before I ask you about any specific games, are there any moments, because you were part of a lot of game-winning drives, where can you take us kind of behind the scenes of what Harbaugh and Fleck were telling you before? Again, I think about some of the games like USC and UCLA, some really big play calls. Are there any moments where you're like, I can't believe he just said that, or what, like, or anything of that nature where you're like, what a time from where I started from as a freshman to I'm hearing these conversations live between some very powerful people.
Are you talking about like in game?
Yep.
Yeah. I think passion and energy gets very high during games for anyone. And especially with someone who's had 5 Red Bulls before the game anyway. And they're both different people. I think one of the best things about Coach Fleck is he actually is able to tone it down a lot when he's talking to the quarterbacks, and specifically the quarterbacks. He's very, very calm on game day, which I love. I think it's really positive if you can just talk casually on the sideline without this crazy high energy. And he does a good job of that. And same with Coach Harbaugh. Coach Harbaugh will usually yell at like EK or something, and then he'll like yell at him about me, and then he'll talk to me in like a calm voice. And so he does a good job of like refining it and making sure that we can talk calmly on the sideline. I remember against UCLA, I checked a play on 3rd down to a play that I actually brought from New Hampshire because he wanted me to throw a certain route to a certain receiver, and I wanted to throw to the other side of the field. And I checked the play without it being a check on the call, and ended up being incomplete one way or another. And he was not happy after that. And every 3rd down in that game was a big 3rd down because it was just a tight game. And I'm like, well, in my head, I'm like, you guys gave me the key to the car. I mean, you want me to drive or not? And we look back at that and kind of laugh a little bit about that. And then there was a play where I actually checked and it worked out against Virginia Tech in the bowl game. And that wasn't a kill. And I alerted it myself, and he was not happy. And then we got 20 yards, and it was okay because we got a 20-yard game. And so there's a way to talk to each other in a way that is positive and will promote growth and success on the next drive without tearing people down. And that's also a good way for quarterbacks to talk to their team too. And so I think it's important, the relationship between the OC and the quarterback, because it filters down to the rest of the team. And I think Coach Harbaugh hits that on the head because he understands how that works. And that's why our communication on the sideline with everybody else is really efficient too.
What was the play we've talked about a couple times where PJ said Harbaugh called it on the headset? He's like, "We're going to do what?"
I think that was the third down you threw to Lemecki at UCLA.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the coolest call the entire season. Coach Harbaugh, even when he put the play in, I was like, I didn't see that angle, but I loved it. I'm like, they're definitely not going to expect this one. And screen on 3rd and 1. But that just like that, I look back at that, and that's like kind of just Harbaugh like being in flow state. Like he is thinking critically and processing well, but he's just kind of in flow state, and he doesn't have to, overthink. I know this is what I want to call. I'm going to trust the guys to execute it, and I think it's going to be open. And he was right. Lemecki made a great catch, and Lemecki also took a shot at the end of that play and held on to the ball. Yeah. So there's a trust factor between Coach Fleck, Coach Harbaugh, and I love that Coach Fleck he fully immersed himself in Coach Harbaugh. He's like, this is your offense, you call it. And Coach Harbaugh did the same thing with us, and that's why those plays work.
I want to bring you back to the USC game where it's 3rd and goal, sneak. There's not a camera angle that can really prove that you get in, and then PJ calls a timeout. There's a discussion on the headset between Harbaugh, Fleck. I'm sure you're standing right there. 2 things. What did you think of in terms of, I'm sure you were the one advocating to go for it, but also what's it like to be in the middle of a tush push and just getting pushed by the masses of humanity?
Oh yeah. Take a beating for sure. Sometimes it doesn't look like usually, like let's say an open field, a quarterback sneak. Usually the linebackers have a free shot. It's like, oh yeah, even if you get the first down, they're just going to take a kill shot at you. And that's a lot different in the CAA than is the Big Ten, because linebackers against Michigan are no joke. And when you get to USC, it was like, I love that he called that play. I was on the same page. We were kind of thinking the exact same thing. And when he called it, the O-line was fired up. And that's at bare minimum what you need to use that to score. The O-line needs to be fired up. The tight ends need to be fired up, because ultimately I'm like a human pinball at that point. I'm just and I'm doing my best to get low, but everyone else is pushing me. I'm doing my best, but at some point I'm gonna lose my feet, and you have to just kind of eat it. Like it's tough football down there. You have a couple of yards, and that's where football is won and lost in the trenches. And I get to be a part of the trenches on those plays, and you got to be tough for sure.
Max, there were a couple times this year, I think the first game, maybe the first Big Ten game, where he came out and I'm like, whoa, Max is a little too amped up here. Maybe a couple throws at Rye or whatever. But then you settled down. Like you settled in. Was I right on that? Like your first game and first conference game, where you super amped, super excited, and you had to settle in? Am I reading that wrong?
No, you're right for sure. The last game I played before that was at New Hampshire in front of like 6,000 fans, and I don't think I understood the magnitude of the change until I got there on Thursday night, and I did my best to prepare for that. I was watching packed out home games on the big screen of Huntington Bank, and like trying to put myself in that situation to prepare. And that's all you can do. You can't really do anything else because you've never been in it before. And so getting there on Thursday night, I'm like, this is freaking awesome, dude. But your eyes are like you have these crazy wide eyes because this is the first time you're ever experiencing it. And this game calls for the quarterback to be at his best and be as efficient as possible to win football games. And when you're not in that flow state and you're not, again, I'm just going to say flow state. It's hard because you're out of it. And that's what I kind of felt the first few games. It was like you have to learn how to be in it and be where your feet are. And that's why I kind of took to that this year, as being where my feet were, writing that down on my wristband every single game. That was really important. And that's when I felt like we played our best football. And I remember against Iowa, even though we lost that game, that was the first game that I was like, I really felt that I was present in the moment. And I looked up, I remember looking up on, the second or third drive on first down, and like looking at the fans and looking at the environment and thinking about how cool it was that I got to be here. And going back to the gratitude thing, I was extremely grateful, and that's what allowed me to be present. And I still remember like the scene that I was standing at on the 20-yard line looking at the stadium. And so you have to learn how to kind of be there, but it takes reps like anything does.
I mean, you talk about flow state, and I think probably maybe you would say your best game of the season, I would probably say, was the Maryland game, where 300-something yards, 4 touchdowns. And I think one of the throws from your season that'll stand out to me is that Elijah Spencer back of the end zone throw, where he was when you threw it off your back foot, which I'm sure your favorite offensive coordinator was thrilled about, and where it ended up being was something we don't often see from a Gopher quarterback. Is that Maryland game one where you go back and think about now and be like, I was really in a groove?
Yeah, that was flow state for sure. We couldn't miss it. Like, it was just one of those times, and that happens, every few games or every, twice a season, that you do your best to make sure that you can nail it into where it's like you're consistent with that. And that's part of the chase as a quarterback, and part of the chase as a receiver and an offense too, is how much can you be in that state every single week. And that Maryland game was, that game was absolutely incredible. I mean, the guys just like I said, we couldn't miss. It was like every single thing we wanted to throw at them, we could hit. And whether that was the guys were playing out of their minds or we were just playing consistent football, it was a fun game because it just happened the way it happened because we were all in that flow state. And Elijah Spencer made an incredible grab on that. I mean, pretty sure he got 2 feet down too, right in the student section, which is like the coolest thing ever. And then we were rolling after, me and PJ were rolling after, and like we were all out of our minds that game. And so that was a cool one for sure.
What was the play call gonna be? First play after you recover the onside kick at Michigan that eventually gets overturned. Like, do you already know? Like, because I want to talk about that game specifically, but you get that onside kick, like you're probably winning the game.
Oh,
like,
we were definitely winning the game.
The only time the crowd, go ahead.
They couldn't stop us in this, and getting end of the third quarter, the fourth quarter. We felt really confident that we had kind of finally figured it out. We were clicking. And we weren't going to change anything. I mean, what we were doing on offense, every single thing we did ended up working. And again, that's when I talk about the flow state. It's just the things were clicking. We were on the same page. We were aligned every single play, and we were executing at a really high level and making crazy grabs and putting us in a situation to win the game. And unfortunately, you look at the 2 turnovers we had earlier, the interception and the fumble. Like, that's really costly mistakes, and it's hard to come back from those in Big Ten football games, any football, but especially Big Ten. But play call wise, we still had some time. I think we had time for a nice drive there. Yep. And the tempo stuff was elite by Coach Harbaugh, and I love the change in pace, and that's why we started scoring some points.
So you've been around an NFL running back in New Hampshire.
Go ahead, Burnsy.
You were on an NFL running back in New Hampshire, Dylan Lobb. You were able to play with Darius last year, 50-plus catches with him. Like, if it is going to be the NFL for Darius at the end of his Gopher career, how would you kind of characterize Darius's game, considering you do know what it looks like for NFL draft picks at running back?
Yeah, Darius and Dylan are a lot different. They're a lot different backs. Dylan is a smaller, shiftier guy. He's kind of like a little receiver too, and that's how we utilized him at New Hampshire. And Darius actually kind of became that too, obviously this year with the amount of receptions he had. I'm a big advocate for checkdowns, and I remember one of the quarterback coaches in the NFL, I watched a podcast and they were talking about we don't like check down Charlies in the NFL, and I'm like, well, don't draft me. And it's not that I'm a check down Charlie, but like I think that the key to sustaining drives is keeping the sticks moving, and you have your few explosives a game in the air, which aren't that many usually. Like, you have a handful a game, but other than those, you have to be really efficient in the short to medium passes. And having a running back that can take a 3-yard check down and run 15 yards is incredible. I mean, as a quarterback, why would you not just throw it him every single time? And that's the best part too, because it gets the defense to suck up again, and then you can throw the seam over his head, or throw the deep over going the other way. And it makes it hard for the defense, and especially the linebackers too, because they're seeing play action, they're seeing pass, and they're running up the line of scrimmage, then running back to cover pass, and I'm throwing to Darius in the check down. It's like they're playing a vertical and a horizontal game, and we're just playing football. Some really dynamic players is really important, and Darius is one of those dynamic players that contributed some of our success this year.
You're currently sitting in his apartment, but today begins for Go for Football, the
I'm so
Max
excited.
Brosmer era.
I'm so excited.
And I mean, you go back to at any point during the spring, part of the reason why you were brought in was to mentor Drake Lindsay. You spent 12 months doing that. You talked about with me at the bowl game how he's almost like a little brother to you at this point. So what advice have you kind of given to Drake as he starts his campaign to hopefully be, in his mind, the successor to Max Brosmer?
Yeah. The message to the quarterback room is just take it one play at a time and don't be upset with making a mistake. I loved what Coach Fleck said yesterday is don't you everyone's so afraid to make a mistake. In football, you got to be fearless in any way. And the fear of making mistakes is where there's no growth. And you should love when you make a mistake, because that means you have an opportunity to get better the next play or the next day. And so something I didn't do very well when I was a freshman and sophomore, and that most people don't do really well, is they take in the negative too much and they don't see the positive from what they're doing. And you can't be perfect. There's no such thing as perfection. I think I've maybe had like 3 or 4 practices in my entire career where I've went 100%, like 24 for 24. And I've had a lot of practices. And that's just not an expectation you can have for yourself. You can push yourself to be perfect, but you should never expect to be perfect. And for the quarterback room, understanding that and taking the mistakes and the little piece of, the failures that you have along the way and using them to grow for the next day, that's how stacking days works. And as a quarterback, it's really important because the entire offense, the entire team falls on your back. And if you get stuck thinking about the negatives too much, like most of us do when we're younger, it's really hard to grow with a positive mindset. And that's kind of what I'm going to aim to do also when I'm here. Like, I'm here for the next couple of days. It's just kind of be that guy, like, hey, you're good, bro. Like, take the next rep. Just take the next rep. And that was my mindset the past couple of years, was just take the next rep. Just go 1-0.
Hey, Max, it's a little bit of speculation, but from what you've gleaned throughout this, kind of the draft prep stuff and talking to coaches and obviously watching NFL, how much different is playing quarterback going to be in the NFL than college, like in terms of what you're asked to do and those type things?
Great question. Yeah, I mean, I think there's the professional side of it's a lot different. I mean, you're playing for a multi-billion-dollar business, and it's everyone. Like, I think I like what Coach Fleck said. Everyone is their own LLC now. Like, everyone's their own business. Everyone is working for their family. They love football, but everyone is working for their family now. It's a job. As a quarterback, you're providing for the livelihood of your team, and they're in their families, and that's really hard to assess. It's really hard to kind of take in. But for me, it's as a quarterback coming as a rookie, I'm going to do my best just to show how much I love football. And do my best to provide as much value to my new team as possible. And playing quarterback, I mean, you can see there's very few vets now, because it's kind of the new wave coming in, and I'm going to be a part of that new wave, and I'm excited for that challenge. And it'll be the guys that can mentally and physically handle it for the longest time possible to become the new round of vets in 8 years.
Did you enjoy the combine process? You mentioned we hear about all the interviews and all the conversations, and I mean, you're in, you're out, you're running around meetings, the whole bit. Like, was that a fun experience? Was it a nerve-wracking experience? Take us through that.
Yeah, all of the above. The only goal I had for myself, I had a couple of goals, but one of the first goals was to be extremely present, and understand that there's not many people that get to go to this combine. Like, this is something you grow up watching on TV, and you're like, I want to be one of those guys at the combine. And I got to do it. Again, somehow, some way, I'm here. So I did my best. We talked about the North Carolina game where you're getting wide-eyed. And you're trying to take it in, but you're not really present. I really challenged myself to be present, and I feel like I enjoyed it because of that. And I wanted also to be super vulnerable and let teams know exactly what they're getting in me, and I felt like I did that. And so because of those reasons, I feel like I really enjoyed the combine. The medical day is the worst day ever. It is. I mean, it's way worse than what people tell you. I mean, people say it's really bad. Like people go into that day saying it's the worst day it takes 2 years off their life. And I was like, yeah, okay, we'll see how it is. I get there and I'm there from like 9 a.m. to like 8 p.m. And like you're just sitting around most of the time waiting for people to do their scans, waiting for people to see their doctors. And
Wow.
it is awful. But other than that, it's kind of just the process. There's not much they can do about it. There's like 300 people there, and everyone's got to get their checks. And so, other than that, I really enjoyed it, and felt like I learned, even more ball than I knew here, and got to meet some cool people there, and make some bonds that I feel like I'll kind of keep for a bit, and I can't wait to see where those guys end up too in the NFL.
Hey Max,
The coaches?
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
Coach. No, you follow up. Go ahead.
No, I'm out.
No. you follow up because I was going to ask a big picture.
You guys should have one of those like hand raised buttons.
Yeah.
We need headset communications. Chip, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just kind of more curious, big picture about quarterback position, and I see all these quarterback schools and these kids going to trainers, and like it's become kind of like a cottage industry of I don't know that there's in sports if there's a more specific thing than learning to play quarterback, and everybody has their own quarterback coach. What kind of be because I'm sure there's some parents that are listening to this that have kids that are going to be quarterbacks. What advice would you give to them? Like, seek out as much of these schools. Like, what kind of things would you tell them as somebody that's coming up and trying to play that position?
Be careful, Quincy's going to be listening.
Yeah. So I would say you have to find someone you trust. I think that Quincy was like nobody when I started working with him. Like he'll attest to that too. Like he had a couple clients before I did, but I wasn't like thinking like this guy's gonna make me, allow me to go to the NFL when I was in like 7th grade or something. But I found someone who I trust, who I liked, and who matched my work ethic and my energy. And we kind of just stuck it out from there. And for some reason, now we're here together. I'd say be careful. Agreeing to train with quarterback coaches and trainers that you feel are just there for the money, and they're not there to they don't really care that much, because there's a lot of those people out right now, and I hate seeing it. People, quarterbacks who are just getting like 6th or 7th grade, they're paying so much money to train this guy, but they're not really learning much from him. And so that's part of the trust thing. You have to really trust who you're working with, and trust that they really care for the outcome and the well-being of your kid or yourself. So there's a lot of really great quarterback coaches and a lot of great trainers, but also a lot of really bad ones too. And when I say bad, I just mean they don't really care about the outcome of the kid or outcome of you. So sometimes it's really hard to see that, like really hard. Like, does this guy really care about me? He can also be vetted from other people, and reach out to quarterbacks who have been through the process too. So the quarterback unit in the country is very, very tight knit. It's a very, very small group of people, and just DM me, ask me a question about a quarterback coach, or DM Quincy, say, hey, do you think this is the right quarterback coach, whatever, because everyone kind of gets vetted the same way.
So you peeled back the onion a little bit this year about kind of your personality and how you're a big bullet chest guy. Now I want to ask you this. I don't think people know this about you, but you're a big coffee snob from what I've heard. You've graded over 40 different K-Cups. Yeah, and there it is.
Just got my coffee hand delivered by my girlfriend.
It's good living.
Yeah.
So what do you think you got a better taste for, coffee, or I've heard you're quite the wine guy as well, now that you're 21 and everything?
Well, and I'm not drinking wine at 9 a.m. in the morning. As much as I would like to, I don't think that's something that would be beneficial to my life. I do enjoy coffee. That's my mom's fault. One of my favorite things to do, like when I'm home, is have a cup of coffee with my mom in the morning. Like that's awesome. That's like my favorite thing to do. Yeah. Especially when we're at the lake too. We have a little spot on Lake Hartwell, and when the sun's coming up at 6:30 in the morning and I get to have coffee with my mom, it's the coolest thing ever. So
You're 23 going on 63.
yeah. Well, when we were in Minneapolis this year, me and Katie's thing, my girlfriend, our thing was we would wake up like 45 minutes before we needed to, just so we could have coffee and watch the news in the morning. And
hey, I'm with you, brother.
You're my age. You're officially my age.
You don't apologize for that. That is a treat.
I love it. It's grounding. It's nice to kind of wake up. You don't have to rush yourself. I hate being rushed.
Yep.
That's one of my favorite things to do in the morning. And then the best thing I like about wine is just that it brings people together. I don't usually drink wine by myself. Sit and
Usually
watch,
being the key word there? Or?
Yeah. Sit and watch like soap operas and like cry and drink wine. Hang out with my cats.
Well, I see the shirt you're wearing says Young and the Restless on it. So
yeah. No, I like wine just because my dad is a big fan. And I just like how it, brings people together. I think it's fun to try new wines with people and have, fun dinner experiences and drink a new bottle of wine. And you do it for the moments and memories you make with people.
Anything else, guys, you want to ask? I want to go get – I'll have you judge my Toledo coffee here, the K-Cup that I'm having in my room. It's
in the Renaissance
scale. Anything else before we let Max go on the rest of his day?
Yeah, no question for me. But Max, I've covered this program for 25 years, and we talked about you a lot this year. And I think the last when the season is over, I said there's a real appreciation for someone who's covered this thing, more than 2 decades. The impact you made on this program in 1 year is enormous, and I think it was one of my most enjoyable seasons watching Gopher football because of the way the offense performed, the way you performed, the way it brought PJ the trust that you guys could throw the ball and be balanced and just your leadership and the way you carried yourself. First class all the way. And I just say bravo. I mean, you made a lasting impact in 1 year. And I think the fan base appreciates that.
I appreciate that, Chip. Thank you.
Well, in the spirit of being nice, my final comment will be this. For the tens of thousands of people that will see it on social medias, Max, would you rather I use the photo of you as a cool uncle or you in a New Hampshire lab coat?
Oh, Burnsy. I think you've posted the fun uncle guy like 25 times.
It's a great photo of you, Max.
You need a new one. I won't be giving you
a new headshot.
That's something that you got to dig on yourself. So you can post as you want. It's not my favorite picture, but you seem to like it, and so whatever gets you going, I'm good to go.
Well, thanks for doing this, man. I echo everything Chip has said. I've said that to you a million times. It was a pleasure to cover you. It's going to be even more fun to watch you continue to go from here. And I know you won't be a stranger. I know you'll be around, especially with Drake taking the reins and everything. But continued success, man. Thanks for everything today, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, man. Thanks, guys, for having me on.
That is the Pair and a Spare podcast. Remember, we've got the event, Jack's Cafe, April 12th. It's the info's everywhere on all of our social medias and everything that comes with it. And we will do this again in a couple of weeks on the Pair and a Spare podcast.